time. It's just how are you actually ending the game once you've stalled it out that you need to figure out.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to Justice?
We're ready, I think.
We are ready. Okay. Let's start with Crown Watch Squire. This is a 1/1 for 1, uncommon, 1 Justice Influence, ultimate. When Crown Watch Squire is a student, he gets +2/+2. When we were initially talking about this card, we kind of talked about how we need to find out what density of mentor cards there were at low rarities and low costs, and there really isn't that much. Mm-hmm. There is Sparring Partner that we're going to be talking about very soon, but other than that, there is nothing at 2. And there's just there's some at 3, etc. But there's just nothing that's really, really exciting at these very, very low costs. Makes me pretty skeptical about this one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I mean, if it's just a 1/1 for 1, that's just garbage. And the fact that even once you draw a mentor card, you might not want to target your Crown Watch Squire. There might just be better, more relevant targets by that point. So that makes me a little nervous. I mean, I'm not going to pick this early, but there actually is an okay amount of mentor cards at common. Like, yeah, Sparring Partner is the best one, but there's a few, like, there's a common exactly Huru mentor card, so, like, there's that going on. But again,
sure,
it might make the cut once in a while, but I'm going to start off by giving this, like, a D. Like, there will be decks where it is actually good, like you make it a 3/3 flyer eventually or whatever. But that's just not worth the deck building cost or the drafting cost of taking it over other cards generally. But maybe if you get it really late in the pack, it can make the cut sometimes.
So we went from 1/1 for 1 to another 1/1 for 1.
Yeah. So
we have Minotaur Oathkeeper. When you attack the enemy player with exactly 1 unit, it gets +1/+1.
Important to note, this is not Oathbook. It is +1/+1 for a turn. I know some people misread that or misjudged it or just didn't quite see the words this turn, but this is not Paladin Oathbook permanently buffing something. It is just this turn, so it's essentially Exalted from Magic the Gathering if you've ever played that. But yeah, +1/+1 this turn when you attack with 1 unit. What do you think about that?
I mean, it seems like it could be a marginal playable in a very aggressive Justice deck. I don't think Justice is as aggressive in this set as it was when you had the Rakano decks. I guess this is fine in a Rakano deck, but those aren't as good. I'm not excited about this. It definitely has more utility than the average 1-drop. Mm-hmm. I guess it can attack as a 2/2 for 1.
It attacks as a 2/2 for 1, and if you have multiples, then the one that is attacking is a 3/3. I mean, that's kind of cool. I haven't had a lot of experience with it yet, but if there is an aggressive Justice-based deck, this looks like one of the better 1-drops you could be playing.
Yeah. I guess so. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm just also worried about ping effects. I'm worried about the what are they called, the amethyst acolytes. For instance,
right?
But certainly, I'm gonna give it a D. But on the
okay.
But I'm gonna say that on the caveat that if you are in a dedicated aggro deck, this moves up to like a C.
Yeah, you're basically only going to play this in Argenport or Rakano, right? So this can either help you push through your Warcry units so you get more Warcries. And it seems like Argenport, I haven't actually drafted really Argenport much yet or seen it a ton, but it has this weapons matter sub-theme. So this kind of goes along with that in that you can put a weapon on itself and it attacks itself and gives itself +1/+1. Or if you put a weapon on something else and attack with it, it's buffing those. Argenport seems like 1 unit attacks alone is kind of part of its theme. So it's interesting, and the body there can block something eventually, who knows. And the fact that it does attack as a 2/2 the first turn it comes out is pretty cool. And the fact that it's a 1-drop that if you draw in the late game, it still has some relevance, just not a ton. If you're alpha striking, it's bad, but this is a really tricky one to evaluate, but I'm going to be optimistic with it and go still just a C. Still just a C for now, and a C for now. I really have to play with this more, but I don't know. It's really, really intriguing.
Copper Hall Herald. Tell me about little Herald.
All right, little Herald here is part of the cycle.
Yes.
It's a 2-cost 1/3 endurance instead of 1/3 charge. I like 1/3 endurance a little more. And it's got ultimate pay 6 to give Copper Hall Herald +2/+2. It's also a Minotaur, which kind of matters. So yeah, 1/3 endurance for 2, not great, but can block, and then eventually becomes a 3/5 endurance, which we've seen before and talked about. So 2-drop, that's okay early, not great, but okay. I mean, with Oathkeeper, hey, it's attacking for as a 2/4 then. And in the late game, it gets pumped up. Probably the worst of this cycle, but that's not a bad thing. It's still decent. I like my 2-drops that are good early and late. And an endurance body is good at wearing buffs and weapons, like because it can attack and block. So it's just an overall very nice role player for sure.
I would say this is like a C. It's definitely I would say the worst of that cycle that we were talking about. But it's fine.
Yep, right around C, or maybe as we play more it'll creep up towards C+. Who knows?
Sparring partner. This is a 2/2 for 2 and 1 justice influence, and it has mentor. Give the student +1/+1. This is pretty nice.
Oh yeah.
Being able to transfer that +1/+1 to a flyer, or any other sort of hard to block unit. This seems great in some Recano decks, especially if you get nice things like Recano Outlaws, or that audacious bandit that we saw before. If you, as long as you're placing this in the correct spots, that's definitely very useful. Basically any unit that can give you 3/3 worth of stats on turn 2, I'm willing to play, as long as there isn't some sort of horrendous downside, and this definitely does not have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also cards that care about being the student. I don't know how often that'll come up, but you can enable those. It's just a 2-drop where 2/2 for 2 is sort of acceptable, a little worse in this format, but fine. And if you top deck it, it's got board impact, but again, you have to exhaust that unit, which can be, I've found it already to be awkward. Like, my opponent's mentored something.
Oh, yeah.
And realized their mistake and conceded. Like, I've had that happen in a game already. But I just like 2/2s that are, it's not great early is the problem. It's just okay, but it's nice-ish in the late game. It'll be interesting to see if where this ends up falling as far as best commons. I initially had a good impression of it. Now it's a little bit lower, but it's really cool how it interacts with revenge units. Yep. You think of Mentor as the Huru mechanic, but it also can be nice in other ways. I don't know. Is this a C+ or just a C?
C+ seems safe to me.
All right. Yeah. Well, I do like 2-drops that are good at most stages of the game, though. So I'll keep an eye on it.
Next, we have Stalwart Silverwing. This is a 1/1 flyer for 2, 1 justice influence. It has flying and revenge. Now, I played a Forge in which I tried this guy out because I somehow ended up in Argenport there by accident. And I kept on getting past these as the best card in the pack, because Forge, has that sort of there's just, 2 still unplayable cards and 1 barely playable card. Okay. So I decided to try this out to see how it felt. It was not very good.
Yeah, this maybe can do some impressive stuff in Constructed, but it's going to be hard to really abuse this in Draft. A 1/1 flyer for 2 is just not good, even if you get it a second time. I mean, flyers are pretty good in this format so far, and there are ways to buff up revenge. Again, this is not a bad mentor target, I guess. It can be filler, but I don't think I'm going to be picking this highly or prioritizing it highly at the moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe ever. Again, I haven't explored Argenport a whole lot yet. Revenge does seem really cool, but at the same time, it's still just a 1/1 flyer that's not threatening to get any larger until you do some other things with it. And if you do find other things to buff it up, it could really be strong, but that sounds like a lot of ifs right now.
Yep. So, yeah, let's put it that way. I'm going to put this at a D.
Yeah, let's start D. If it somehow ends up at a C- in certain decks, sure. But yeah, I think a D is a safe place to start for now.
Yeah, prove me wrong, people. I'll say D until then. Mm-hmm. Strength of Many.
Yeah.
This is a fast spell that gives your units. One of your units.
One
sorry.
of your units.
I thought for a second there, it's like, holy crap.
There's the word one in there a few times.
One of your units +1/+1. This turn for each of your units. This is 2 cost. So this is a combat trick. We kind of noted before, cost is quite the premium in combat tricks. 2 is fine, but not great. Ultimately, this is like a worse Finest Hour, I think, in most scenarios. But Finest Hour was a great card that you played as many of as you got a chance to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is a card that's going to be tough to cut from a deck. Combat tricks are hard to come by, especially good ones. And it has some cool synergies with certain play patterns, especially like we were just talking about Minotaur Oathkeeper, where that's buffing a unit and adding a unit to your board. Stuff like that is pretty cool. And you can use it defensively or aggressively. It's not like just when you're attacking, you can only use Strength of the Many. It's flexible in that regard. And 2 cost isn't too wild. And it has the upside of just killing your opponent, if you have a ton of units in a board stall or something and one person gets through unblocked. So I like that. It's always going to give at least +1/+1, and it's generally going to give more than that. So, this is a tricky one to evaluate still, but because the floor is not great, but the ceiling could be insane. Especially, with Revenge, that kind of encourages you end up having more units on the board than average anyways. I don't know. I think this is decent.
I mean, it's decent, but it's still not outstanding. I would put it as C+, which is a solid for a common. But I don't think that this gets into the B range where you're like actively excited to put this in your deck.
I think C+ is good. Like, I think combat tricks have gotten better in this format just because fast removal is less common now, and good combat tricks are harder to find as well. So, I think C+ is a good place to start, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up going a little bit higher than that.
Can you tell us about this next card?
Ooh, yeah, this next one's real interesting. Talon of Noxtrix. 2 cost, single justice influence requirement, relic weapon. 2 cost relic weapon. And it's 2/2. So it's 2 attack, 2 armor. Alright. This is real interesting, right? This can wear Warcry buffs. There's a bunch of cards that care about weapons or give you armor. And there's also a bit more Aegis units floating around in this set than I think previously, and this can be a clean way to deal with those. I think this is a pretty important card in this set at common. It's not killing large things, but there's a lot of... it's sort of just this role player glue card that's just going to show up and do important things. Not maybe powerful things, but again... It seems like Argenport has this weapons matter theme going on, and maybe this is an important card for that. I haven't explored it a lot or taken it all in yet, but I think you're at least always happy to play one of these, maybe 2. I'm not sure yet on that, but it's an acceptable floor with a very interesting ceiling synergy wise.
Yeah, so I think that Justice's removal is just so bad.
Yeah.
2, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just get almost nothing. And so the fact that this is something that can reach out and kill a problematic unit, like the fact that this actually specifically kills the that deadly Viper thing, I think that's a really big bonus, because that's the sort of thing that you are assembling Voltron, they played their deadly unit, you cry a little bit inside, then you rip this off the top of your deck, and then you cry in joy because you have to kill it and then kill them. And so it's just totally fine, especially for a common. What are you expecting from a common? So this, it definitely allows you also for tempo plays too early in the game. So I just don't think that you're ever going to be unhappy having 1 or 2 of this in your deck. Still only a C+, but definitely worthy of an inclusion in a lot of decks.
Yeah, let's start at C+. As I explore Argenport more and really figure out how important weapons and etc. are in the deck, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up at a B-, but we'll start at C+. Seems fairly nice, just what it can do.
How about you tell us about the next card?
We've got Tinker. Not quite as strong as the Tinker we might know, but still a very interesting card. 2 costs, spell, Injustice, just 1 influence there. And it says, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom. So, scry 1 again. And the top unit or weapon of your deck gets +2/+2. So, this is card disadvantage, right? You're not drawing a card out of this. You're just giving your next card +2/+2. That's a weapon or a unit. And you're scrying 1. So you're essentially throwing away a card to get this effect, right? So you've got to decide, is this worth a card? That remains to be seen. I am saying no right now, but giving weapons +2/+2 is strong. That actually can end up catching you up in card advantage, right? Talon of Nostrix, if it becomes a 4/4, can easily take out 2 units. Or if the next thing it hits is a revenge unit, all right, you get to double dip on that. But those are ifs, right? You've got to really have high card quality in your deck. You really can't have any misses for this Tinker if you want to play it. So while I think there are decks that can play this, I don't know if, this is... I certainly don't think this is a high pick in any Justice deck.
Yeah, this is definitely one I'm going to have to feel out to see how the play patterns feel. The fact that this doesn't draw a card like Inspire does is a massive downgrade.
Right, this is not Inspire. It's not.
This is not Inspire. And the fact that this costs 2 as opposed to 1 also, like, major downgrade. I'm going to actually just say, for now, I'm going to avoid this card. Until I see and am convinced otherwise, until I... Like the one deck that I think has to come together in my mind in order for this to make more sense to me is the Argenport deck. If there's a deck that can use this with the revenge cards, with the weapons, it's that one. But unless I can figure out a way to make that one gel for me, I just don't think this is particularly playable. I'm gonna put this as like a D.
Yeah. Let's start D or maybe even D-. And if your deck has really high density of great hits, then maybe it starts to creep up where the card disadvantage isn't quite as bad. Like Scry, can get a power out of the way or whatever, and you get to Scry first. So if there is a bad hit on top of your deck, you actually get to put it on the bottom. But then you don't know when you're drawing something relevant for a while. It's rough. It does up the card quality of your deck, but by lowering the card quantity. I don't know if that's where we want to be with this format just yet. So let's start at D, and we'll see where it ends up. There are some really cool things you can do with it, but I just don't know if that's worth the risk.
Tranquil Scholar.
Ooh, this is good.
Yes. This is much more interesting.
Yeah.
2/2 for 2. 1 Justice Influence. Summon Tranquil Scholar. It gets a random battle skill. Then give a unit in your hand that battle skill. So, okay, the battle skill is random.
Yeah.
You get to choose which unit in your hand gets that battle skill.
Yeah.
So those are some interesting sort of elements to this one. I think that this is a really solid card to have in a lot of decks, and especially if you're able to give a particularly juicy keyword onto a high value target, like I'm just thinking about something like a flyer or whatever. You can do a lot with this kind of card.
Yeah, any battle skill is a good thing. You can't get a bad battle skill like Reckless or anything like that. They're just simply not possible. So this is always just going to be a 2/2 for 2 with some sort of upside, so that's good already. Any 2/2 for 2 with a battle skill is just good. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Yep.
Aegis, Overwhelm, I don't care. Like Unblockable, crazy.
Flying.
Warcry, flying, Lifesteal, who cares? They're all great upside things. Quick draw, and then you get it on another unit in your hand. So you don't do that if you top deck this in the late game, sure. I guess that's a downside, but still, if you play this on turn 2, your opponent's gonna be miserable. It's just a fact. If this is in your opening hand, you're gonna be having a really good time that game. It'll also wear weapons well, probably. So yeah, it's just a great card.
Yeah, I think that this is one that it's a really, really solid, part of the curve. It's not like this is the sort of thing that takes over a game, but it definitely is extremely solid. So for me, that's like B plus kind of territory, not quite into the bomb territory, but it's just something that you're going to play as many of them as you get access to in any of your Justice decks.
Yeah, it's hard for a 2-drop to be an actual bomb, but it is just so efficient and so good. I think you're right on with that B or maybe B plus. It's just a premier 2-drop, just excellent card.
How about we talk about Copperhull Cudgel? This is a weapon that gives you +2/+2 to one of your units, and when that unit dies, you get a 2/2 Minotaur. One of the risks in the weapon-heavy strategies is that you have always this opportunity for card disadvantage, because if your unit dies that's holding the weapon, then you lose your weapon too. This recovers some of that because you're able to get a 2/2 in exchange. Yeah. Once it dies. So that really limits the risk of that. Crownwatch Longsword was a 2/2 weapon for 2 in the previous set, and that saw some play, not outstanding amounts. I think this is much better than that. So although not a really outstanding card, I think that every Justice deck it'll be pretty happy to play one or two of these at the very least.
Yeah, this is a great way to keep your weapon count up and also not lower your unit count too much. So it lets you just play more weapons in a deck that might want more weapons. Yeah, I think this card is great. I really think this will be an important card in Justice decks. I think this is a reason to when you're drafting, you're trying to find a signal, where should I be? I think if you see this, in the middle of a pack or something, that's a strong signal. I think this is a pretty strong card.
I'm going to put it at B minus for right now, but I actually could see this moving up.
Yeah, let's start B minus. But I mean, a mini elephant guide is nothing to scoff at. That's for sure.
Yep. Now, Copperhull Shieldman. Tell me about this gentleman.
All right, it's a Minotaur. I think that's the best thing about it. It's a 3-cost common, and it's an 0/7. And he is bashing some dudes with a tower shield. Multiple men are getting destroyed. And I don't know how, because this guy has 0 attack and 7 health. And I don't know.
That was my question when I saw this.
It feels like he should be sitting back, and the men are charging at his shield. I don't maybe he should be a 7/0. But yeah, I don't know. It's an 0/7. I don't want this card unless for some reason I really want an 0/7. I just don't know why. But there it is. I'm gonna give it a D minus.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Justice is looking pretty aggressive. I don't see how this fits in. Dune Phantom was not an exciting card for a whole bunch of different reasons, and this is worse than that.
This does not fly.
Yeah, no, this is got some serious problems. Yeah. So let's just say D and move along to Emerald Ring. Ooh. This is we were talking about how Amber Ring was possibly the best of the cycle.
I think
this is really close.
But it's really close.
I can see the argument either way. This one is really sexy. Emerald Ring, 3-cost to put it on. It's a relic. Use 3 to use, and you get +1/+1 for a weapon or a unit.
No.
+1.
You put a one weapon on all your units. Yeah.
Okay, I'm dumb.
It's not strictly better Amber Ring.
Yeah. Okay, so +1/+1 on one of your units. So this is in some respects like a Paladin Oath book, except it doesn't have quite the same nutty curves.
Right.
But the fact that you don't have to attack to get that bonus is so powerful, because it means you're okay, we're in a bit of a board stall. I'm going to build up my flyer for a little while until it gets big enough that it can take out your flyers.
Right.
And then I'm going to start attacking with it. And then I'll start buffing up my blockers to, you could just move this around and make it work. There's a lot of interesting strategic implications for this. And this is very much the kind of power sink that I like in the late game, because it can actually work to try to really break those board stalls when you're able to assemble something that's powerful enough to do so.
Yep. Yeah, this is not just a spiked helm. It is many spiked helms. And it's important to note that, especially in Argenport, there are units, again, that care about having a weapon on them, and this can spread the love around for that. Or, as you said, just have a unit with flying and go to town with that, and eventually it'll build up something that'll be a relevant threat on the board. So this is kind of like your your late game finisher in a Justice deck, or even in a mid game, just helping you to push through in spots. It just adds up value. If you're staring down an Emerald Ring across the board from you, you are really nervous about that. You want to get the game over before it starts to spiral out of control. Again, not as fast as Oathbook, which is a good thing. There's a reason why Oathbook got moved to rare. This, costs 3 every turn to do, but you don't even have to attack with units, so that's awesome. And it being a weapon sometimes is a downside, sometimes an upside, but still just good either way. So
I will note this isn't a combo with Revenge, which is an important one, but definitely I would say that every Justice deck wants one of these.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you can't overload. You can overload on this sort of thing because this isn't a real 3-drop. This is closer to a 6 or a 7-drop in some respects. So I would put this as a B minus sort of range as a result of that. But that the first one is very close to us, just a B plus kind of card.
Yeah, it starts at B, and then the second one goes down in value tremendously. But the first one's really important, I think, in a lot of Justice decks. Not all of them, but there will be a lot that are really happy to have Emerald Ring in their deck.
I don't understand this next card. Tell me about it.
Fencing Master. It's a 2/2 for 3 at uncommon, double Justice influence requirement, and it has an ultimate. So the ultimate can only be activated once. When an enemy's unit is stunned, play a +3/+3 Gem Blade on Fencing Master. So Fencing Master becomes a 5/5, essentially. A Gem Blade gets equipped to it, but you have to stun a unit for that to happen. And it's only when the first time you stun a unit. If you keep stunning units, it's not going to keep getting more Gem Blades on it. So it's a 2/2 for 3 that, if you meet a very weird condition, becomes a 5/5 for 3, which is nice, but you've got to stun something first. So, yeah. Justice has stuns in it. I mean, Rebuke is a card, and there's that new weapon that stuns. It looks like Justice has a few stun effects, but I don't know how reliably you can trigger this, and a 2/2 for 3 is certainly not something you want to be playing.
The way that I see this is almost a build around for Huru aggro. If you have a curve of this into the Jotun Froskin, or the what's the name of it? The 3/3 that stuns.
Jaral's Froskin.
Jaral's Froskin.
Yeah.
We've been at this for so long, my brain is turning to mush. Jaral's Froskin. Like, I think that curve is really hard to beat.
Yeah, you win the game.
Yeah. So you have to be in like a very specific type of deck, or if you're and curves like Tranquil Scholar into the Froskin, just absolutely savage. Mm-hmm. If you're not in basically exactly that archetype of dedicated, focused just Huru, this card is really bad.
Yeah, I mean, a 2/2 for 3 is certainly not something to be happy about. At least it does something, unlike Mr. 03 from the first set. Like, I think I like this a little bit more. And Justice does have at least a decent number of stun effects, and there's also that now Huru. But I think you're right. It's at its best in Huru. And again, only Justice and Primal have stun effects. I don't think Fire, Shadow, or Time can stun. So it'll be a little tough to play in non-Huru decks unless you have a lot of stun effects from Justice. But the upside is there. I mean, a 5/5 for 3 is awesome. I just don't think I can take this highly. It's kind of like an uncommon that's a payoff later in the pack for being in a deck with a lot of stuns, but it's not something I'm going to go out of my way for.
Yeah, I will argue. I'll say that, like, let's put it at a D plus as a base, but on the understanding that if you are in that very specific deck archetype, it can move up to something like a B minus.
Yeah, this card can be. I mean, a 5/5 for 3 is crazy, but yeah, you got to jump through a hoop first to get there, and it's a tough hoop to jump to.
Yeah, definitely. I think a pack 3 card is kind of how I would describe it.
Yeah, or a late pack 1. Like if you know you're in Huru by then, sure.
High Branch Sentry. When High Branch Sentry is a student, she gets +1/+1. She's a 3/3 for 3 with 1 Justice Influence. Sure. 3/3s for 3, totally fine. This has a nice upsize to it. I think this is a pretty solid, like C+ kind of card.
Yeah, super solid. Just 3/3 for 3. The mentoring effects that are at common are either give it flying or give it Aegis or give it +1/+1. So if it's targeted by any of those, it's either a 5/5 or it's a 4/4 Aegis or it's a 4/4 flyer. Those all sound like very good things to me. Of course, it's exhausted for that first turn, but yeah, I like this more than say the 1/1 for 1 because at least up front it's a 3/3 for 3, and then it still gets a little bonus. I'd rather have some of the stats up front. And it's also not an ultimate. It's every time you make it a student. So you can keep piling on if you want to. But then again, you're exhausting it every time. So when eventually, how long can you wait for the payoff? It's the question. But yeah, this looks nice. Even if you only have like 2 mentor cards in your whole deck, it's still a 3/3 for 3 and might be worth playing.
Yep. Yeah. So would you say C or C plus?
I think I still just go C with it.
That's fair.
Just as a 3/3 for 3. Like, sure.
Spirit Guide is our next card. This is not a C. This is a little bit better than that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
This is 3 double justice lifesteal. So 3/3 for 3 life steal card at its base would already be like a B- kind of card, I think.
Yeah.
Then this also has mentor give the student lifesteal. That's bonkers. If you get this in like especially like mid to late game, turning some big beater into a lifesteal big beater is terrifying. If you do this onto a medium to large size flyer, that's absolutely grotesque. Is this a B plus or an A is my only question.
It might be an A minus. It's close. Like, man, this card is nuts. I mean, it's never bad at any stage of the game unless you can't cast it. Unless you can't cast it, right? But a 3/3 lifesteal for 3, even if you mentor nothing, awesome. If you draw it late, if you have a really large unit, you can mentor that. It wears weapons incredibly well. It receives mentor incredibly well. It's just incredible. I can't picture myself picking an uncommon over this ever, so I guess that puts it like pretty like again B plus or A minus is kind of splitting hairs at that point. I don't know. I think I'll go B plus because it's still just like a 3/3 for 3 at the end of the day. Like it's not the craziest bomb, but it is so good. It's just so good. Yeah, I'm gonna go with B plus, but again, the card's just awesome.
Yep. Definitely worth first picking very enthusiastically. Tireless Stranger is our next card. This is a 3/3. Yeah, he definitely did get an upgrade. Still not exciting, but definitely like an okay card. 3/3 for 3. Strangers have endurance. I don't think most of the Strangers decks are going to be Justice heavy.
Sure.
So this isn't like a key part of that sort of deck, but 3/3 endurance for 3 is fine. Like I would put this as like a C minus.
I would actually go C plus. The reasoning there is a 3/3 endurance for 3 is just really really good. It wears weapons well, wears buffs well. You can mentor it. Like this is a good mentor target. Like I think it's a better mentor target than even High Branch Sentry. And the downside of it is like your opponent's random strangers get endurance. Like their 2/2s get endurance. Like that's not really a downside compared to some of the other stranger lords out there, or buffing strangers that might give them +1/+1 or +1/+0 or whatever. Deadly. Those are real downsides to give to if your opponent's strangers get them, where endurance really isn't, because you have a 3/3 endurance of your own that can just block them anyways, right? So I think this card is pretty good. You don't need to be in strangers for it to be good. It's just what Justice wants to be doing because it wears mentor buffs and weapons well as a 3/3 endurance for 3 with very minimal downside. It is a downside, but I think it's minimal. Plus, you can turn it into an upside, but again, don't think that'll happen much either.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stick by C, but I can see C plus as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next card. This is a rare weapon for 4 justice. Pretty strict influence costs. It is a 3/2 weapon that summons to stun an enemy unit. This is one that Okay, first I'm going to ignore the influence cost because triple justice cards on 4 is rough and it's hard to properly factor that into your calculus. Let's just say that this was just for just J of influence cost. Oh. This seems great.
Yeah, that would be
like absolutely.
That's like better than Jarl's Frostkin in a lot of spots.
Oh yes. Really powerful tempo play. Imagine doing this on something like that stupid fencing master guy.
Yep. Like, yeah. The awesome thing is you don't have to put it on your fencing master. You can put it on your other unit, and you have 2 buffed units now. You know that's the dream. But
yeah,
even outside of
just that. and the fact that this it's not just like the Warhammer. Like the Warhammer giving one of your units a bonus allows you to attack through with that one unit, which is always great. This not only allows you to attack through with that one unit because it's now buffed, you also are clearing the way for your other units to attack too. So this can lead to a big turn of, just really jamming for a lot of damage, especially if you're able to curve out into it. Triple justice though.
Yeah, that makes it hard to cast on 4.
Yes.
But there's still plenty of spots where, say, you cast this not till you have 6 or 7 power in play, it's still going to have an impact. Like, you still get to stun, or probably stun their biggest unit. Hopefully it doesn't have endurance. You're making one large unit. The rest of your smaller units can maybe get through. Like, that's still a good impact. Like, it's insane on 4, but it's acceptable everywhere else in the game still. +3, +2 isn't the best stats, but it's something, and that stun effect could be enough to just win you the game on the spot anyways. Like, getting a large unit and stunning something is a big swing.
Yep.
But yeah, triple justice, that is tough, especially if we're going to be seeing 3 faction more. But if you're base justice and you get a couple, Huru or Argentport Strangers or whatever in your deck, it's a little more easier to digest here. But man, yeah. We were okay with triple fire out of Groundbreaker. This is not Groundbreaker. So where do we want to land on this?
I am going to put this at... What would you put Warhammer at? Was Warhammer an A-?
It's hard to make any weapon an A- just because at the end of the day you still need a unit. So that was close to an A-, but that was probably still just a B+. I don't know. Warhammer was really good though, and this can be better than Warhammer if you can cast it in spots, but not always. It has more of immediate impact, that's for sure. But that triple justice. Whew.
I'm gonna put this at B-.
Yeah.
Because that influence cost is so onerous. But I think that if you are dedicated to aggro, you're very happy to play this, and you just have to know that you're going to be veering a lot to that justice side.
Yeah, Hulu loves this, Argentport loves this, Rakano loves this. Like, if you're in heavy justice, you're most likely going to love it, unless maybe you're Combray. Combray won't care.
No.
Yeah, good card. Hard to cast.
Rabble Rouser. Tell me about this little duder.
You get a revenge card, a common. It's a 4-cost 2/2 for justice. It has revenge and summon. You may give another unit +2/+2 this turn. So 1 time +2/+2 buff until he dies and comes back again. So yeah, solid. Can push through units early, can get in for a block somewhere, and eventually you come back and get the buff again. So I like this card. Also, if you give it any kind of permanent buffs, again, it's a revenge unit itself, so that's cool. Seems like just a really solid role player in any aggressive-ish justice deck. Also, it may target, it says another unit, not another one of your units, so you can use it to pop Aegis in a pinch or something like that. So there's some utility there, but mostly you're going to be playing it as filler for pushing through an early curve in an aggressive deck. But a lot going on for a common 4-drop. I don't mind this one bit.
So what would you rate it at?
I think it's still just a C. But, some decks, if you're aggressive, you like it a bit more. If you're not aggressive, I mean, even in mid-range decks, you'll get value out of the +2/+2 at certain spots in the game and have the body left over, so it's fine. But just a C.
Shard of the Spire is next.
Yeah.
This, I actually was kind of back into taking this in Fortune. Not impressed with this one.
No.
4 cost, 1 justice influence. When you play a unit, it's attack and health become the higher of the two. So if you play a 1/3, it becomes a 3/3. If you play a 3/3, it becomes a 3/1.
0/7, you get a 7/7.
You did it.
Yeah. The problem with Shard of the Spire is it's a rare. You're not going to see it often, and when you do pick it, you might not draw it often in game if you decide to build around it, and you might not even see the cards to build around it with in the draft. So I am not playing this in draft. I might eventually at one point just to have a bad draft and laugh about it. But if I'm trying to win a draft, I'm not picking this card.
The thing for me that puts this over the edge as to how bad it is the fact that it doesn't affect your units that are already in play.
Yeah.
Is massive. Like something like, Xenon Obelisk or whatever, like your units that are in play already get this bonus, which is great. Mm-hmm. And you can utilize it that turn. This is a do nothing on turn 4, which is, makes it extra special bad. I'm going to give it an F.
Yep, F. It's bad. Don't play it unless you want to be sad. So,
Spiked Buckler is our next card. This is a 2/3 weapon, not a relic weapon, just a weapon for 4 and 1 justice. This is kind of medium weapon, nothing particularly exciting. Gives you a good amount of health. So I think this could it can fit into some aggressive decks or decks that care about weapons. But definitely not the sort of thing that you're excited for having. My personal guess is C- or D+.
Yeah, probably D+. This is like role player, late draft filler. Like you're in a deck and you realize you just need weapons, and this is a weapon that you can play. You're just not super excited to.
Okay, I'm gonna say C- still,
sure.
but definitely not an exciting card. Valkyrie Militant next, 2/2 flyer for 4 and 1 justice influence. Then it also has the text, when you play a weapon, you gain +1 armor. That is all types of weapons, not just relic weapons, which is usually what you would associate with getting armor.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on 2/2 flyer for 4?
That's acceptable. It's not super exciting, but it's acceptable. I've played those generally with other upsides, like they make another 2/2 flyer or they shrink the attack of an opponent's creature or something like that. But still, a 2/2 flyer for 4, especially in a deck that probably has weapons, is a good weapon carrier as well. It's acceptable, but nothing super exciting.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And then the other text on there, I just don't think that you really need to value particularly. It'll come up in games, but that shouldn't enter into your pick order.
It's nice with relic weapons. That's like the big thing. Any relic weapon you play while this is in play gets +1 armor, which is nice. But it's incidental niceness. Nothing insane there. If you end up in the weapons deck, it gets a little bit better, but it's not the reason to be in the weapons deck. It's just a nice role player there. And again, 2/2 flyer for 4, cool.
I would grade this as a C.
Yep, it looks like a C to me. Maybe that'll end up going up because I think flyers are hard to come by in this format. So maybe just being a 2/2 flyer for 4 is better in this format than it was before. But that'll take a lot of games to figure out.
How about you tell me about the next one?
Well, the next one's a 3/3 flyer for 4. Valkyrie Spireguard. It's a rare. 3/3 flyer for 4, double justice influence cost. And it gets +3/+3. Oh, I just got disconnected from my client. It has +3/+3 if you have another Valkyrie. So it can be a 6/6 flyer for 4, and there's a decent number of Valkyries in the Injustice. Like the card we just talked about was a Valkyrie. The 1/1 Flying Revenge is a Valkyrie. Like they're around, so it's going to be a 6/6 sometimes. I don't know how often that is, but the downside or worst case scenario of it is a 3/3 flyer for 4, which is great. Like that's totally good, and the upside is you win the game, I guess. So, I'm cool with this card.
Yeah, this one is. I think that if it was the only Valkyrie in my deck, I have to say like a 3/3 flyer for 4 is like a B- kind of card already, or C+.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say the double justice one. Like a double justice one is a C+ card. Once I have 3 or 4 Valkyries in my deck, this definitely gets into the B range. So I would definitely. So this would affect my pick order elsewise, because if I can curve into this with other Valkyries, I think it's going to take over the game. But also not something that you want to go totally out of your way to enable. Like, I don't think the 1/1 revenge card is worth playing to make this work.
Basically, if you're an Argenport in set 2, it's Valkyrie Militant and then Valkyrie Denouncer, which is a legit card we'll get to eventually. But still, the downside is just the 3/3 for 4 flyer. That's already good. It's always going to make the cut. And then, we get the upside is you win the game. So I like it. Let's go with it. I'm going to give it a B still. Just a B. But it's good.
B sounds fine. Victor's Cry. This is a revenge spell for 4 double justice, and it gives one of your units +5/+5 this turn. That's a big bonus, but that's also a big cost.
Yeah. It's a big cost. When we talked about this on an earlier podcast, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever play it. It's just too expensive. But the format is slow. I think you actually do have time to get value out of this card. So it's it's a bit better than I first thought. I don't know if that makes it good or great, but it's playable. It's going to make the cut. Again, your opponents won't really have fast removal very often, or their own pump spells to try and trump this, so that's nice. But again, it gives no evasion and costs 4, and that's the big issue at hand here. It's not actually pushing through damage. It's just pushing through units or combat in spots. But it's okay. I still have to play with it more. It's a really tricky card to evaluate. But I'm gonna start with C-. I think I'm going to be a bit more generous than I was earlier with it.
Yeah, that seems roughly what my experience has been with it. It does stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's just a weird package of things to have in one card. Definitely worth trying out and experimenting. I can see it moving off in my pick order, but C- seems like a good place for right now. Next, we have Crown Watch Press Gang. This is a rare. It's a 3/3 for 5 with 1 Justice Influence. It has Revenge, and the summon ability is draw a 1-cost unit of your choice from your deck. Justice decks don't get a lot of opportunity for card draw.
Yeah.
Or card advantage. So this is a source of that. At the same time, like, what 1-drops are you getting that are really worth it?
Probably the best hit is Minotaur Oathkeeper that we were talking about earlier. Just
getting
that for free isn't bad. And it's really, and District Infantry is maybe okay. Like, that's not, like, completely terrible. Like, if you're getting it for free, especially. But
I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you want to play the 1/1 Flying Ultimate for 1 from set 1 as well. Like, maybe that's okay. Valkyrie Aspirant. I don't know. Like, are you going to play Valkyrie Aspirant, though, because you have a Crown Watch Press Gang? Maybe. I mean, the format is slowing down. Where's weapons? It's a tough call. But there's targets in Justice, and that's not counting all the other factions, too.
I mean, 3/3 Revenge for 5 is kind of is kind of okay as is. Like, not exciting, but kind of at the level of something like the way that I would say it is at the level of something like the Elysian Trailblazer or the Elysian Pathfinder, kind of.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Sure.
Which were playable but unexciting cards in set 1. The deck building restrictions on this also are definitely worrisome. I don't know. I'm not excited about this this card.
I mean, if you have no 1-drops left in your deck, this is still, like, okay to play, just unexciting. And if it does get you a 1-drop, especially if it gets you 2 out of your deck, that's, like, awesome. But that's going to be pretty rare. So, yeah, this is a tricky one to evaluate. I'm going to give it a... I don't know. With all that, it's probably still just like a C+. I don't know. I don't think I can really rate it higher than that. It's doing some cool stuff, but I don't know if any of it's super powerful in draft.
I mean, part of this also is in this thing that we've been talking about constantly, which is we don't get, how Argenport is supposed to be drafted quite yet. it's a weird archetype. And we'll have to play with Revenge more in order for it to make sense to us. As of right now, I would say that this is a C for me. But that's kind of I'm a little bit down on the 1-drops in the format.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like maybe what other factions may, other than Justice, like have good 1-drops again. And I don't know, Dire Fang Spider. That's kind of cool, I guess. But then you're playing Dire Fang Spider. I don't know. We'll see. That's a wait and see. But C for now.
How about we see this next card then?
All right, we got Minotaur Duelist. It's an uncommon gunslinging Minotaur here. Man, this guy is a mean mugger. 5 cost, double justice, 3/2. So now we've got a 3/2 for 5, and has revenge and summon, stun an enemy unit. So Geral's Frostkin with slightly worse body, slightly harder to cast, but it's got revenge on it. I like revenge units with summon effects, and this one's got a pretty good summon effect. I think this is a very nice card in defensive or aggressive decks. Probably better than that card we were just talking about, just because you know what you get when you're summoning it, even if the body's a little bit worse. You're getting a stun effect, which is very nice in the mid, even late game. So I'm going to give this, I don't know, a B-. I think it's above average playable for sure. Well, maybe not for sure, but hopefully.
B- feels a bit generous for me. I would say a C+. I see this as being better than Geral's Frostkin, on the balance, and definitely if you're in a deck that can take advantage of this, you will kind of know that. But a little bit low impact for my base case scenario, but definitely a reasonable playable.
All right, so next up is Scepter of Nobility. It is an uncommon relic weapon. It costs 5, only 1 Justice influence here, and it's 3/3. All right, that's not bad, not great, but Scepter of Nobility costs 2 less while any of your units are wielding a weapon. So its baseline is not great. I mean, we've already saw a 3/4 relic weapon in the first set, but you get this out for 3 instead. That's a nice gain of tempo. It's just hard to actually get this out on turn 3. Like, that means you need a 1-drop and then equip it with a weapon on 2 and then play this on 3. Like, that isn't super realistic, but still the cost reduction is nice even in the mid game where you can combine it with some other things. Like, if you have a 2-cost weapon on turn 5, you can equip that and play this. So it's just nice upside, and the downside honestly is pretty tolerable. It is not an embarrassing card to play without it. So overall, I think this is a nice card. Nothing like incredible, but good.
I see, the way that I see this is just the ceiling and the floor are really close together. I don't feel like you're getting any away with anything.
Yeah.
Whenever you are able to cheat this out, and on turn 5 it's basically just a mithril mace. I understand that there's a little bit of difference, but the difference of 1 less justice influence in exchange for 1 armor is pretty close to a wash. So that I think that mithril mace is roughly a C. So this is a C for me.
Yeah, sure. C sounds fine. Again, maybe somehow Justice cares more about weapons, and this card itself cares about weapons, so maybe because of synergy it goes up, but doubtful. C's a nice place for it.
Aerialist's Kopesh is our next card. This is a 6-cost, 1 Justice influence, 3/3 weapon, and it has summon. The wielder gets flying this turn. This seems like an okay finisher in an aggressive Justice-heavy deck. A lot of your... I think that a reasonable amount of your damage is going to be coming through flyers anyway, so that the summon isn't always going to be relevant. But there's sometimes that this is going to jump one of your units into the air to finish off the game. And 3/3 out of weapon, it's good, but 6 is a lot to pay for it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this package as a whole is a little bit underwhelming. So I'm going to give this a... Is this a D?
Yeah, it's flying for
right?
just the 1 turn. Like, I've used Hellfire Rifle as a finisher in a pinch, but I wasn't really ever happy to do it. This might be better than that, just because, giving flying is maybe more reliable than doing 3 damage to your opponent's face. But yeah, and again, I think there might be less flyers around, but still not a great card. Cost 6. Yeah, this is like a D plus maybe, if that. Like if you need the finisher or a way to like that's all it's doing, right? You're not picking it just because it's a weapon. You're picking it because it's a finisher. Like you're not too concerned about weapon synergies or anything like this for this card. It's more just I need a way to end this game. Most of my dudes are on the ground, and I just want to jump one of them into my opponent's face. So you grab this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll give it a generous C-, but it could easily be worse than that depending on how the format shakes out.
Yeah, again, it's a common. I think if you want one of these as a finisher, you realize you lack it, you'll find it late in a pack.
Yeah, there's definitely not very many decks that want it. Mm-hmm. Horn Grinder.
All right.
3/6 for 6 and 1 justice. Then it has the ability when you gain armor, Horn Grinder gains that much attack and health. That's any source of armor, by the way. Like you just equip a weapon and you get that.
Yeah.
That bonus on him. This can grow to be pretty obnoxious without too much difficulty.
Yeah, this is looks like we talk about life force payoff cards or whatever. I guess this is armor/weapons matter payoff card, right? Now it has no kind of evasion built in. He's just large, and he'll stick around. A 3/6 is hard to remove, so like you got time to get the value out of him. I just don't know what the deck he wants to be in looks like just yet. But I mean, is this enough of a payoff to justify doing it? Maybe. I mean, he just gets very large, but the problem is there's like some deadly units hanging around. He might be a little hard to push through as like a reliable finisher, just because again he has no evasion built in at all. He's just a very large unit, and his upside is he gets larger. I don't know. It's I'm not super into this as a payoff card, but again, and a 3/6 for 6 is not really acceptable at all. So. He can get a lot of attack. I'll give him that, but I just am not sure if he's worth it.
I'm going to start at a C for now. See how this weapon stack materializes, but until I get proven otherwise, I'm just going to see this as a okay inclusion in some decks and understand that this could easily go up or down for me in time.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Prosecutor at Arms is our next card. Can you read that for us?
Prosecutor at Arms. Another 6 drop here. Uncommon. Double Justice Influence requirement. And it's a 4/4. Okay, not happy about that. And as Mentor, give an enemy unit minus attack equal to the student's attack. So you choose one of your units, you exhaust it, and depending on what their attack is, you choose an enemy unit, and they lose that much attack permanently. So you can neuter a flyer or a deadly unit or just their biggest unit, and you have to exhaust one of your units to do so. It's a interesting effect that's hard to evaluate. I mean, there was that flyer in the first set that just did -2 attack, and that always ended up being pretty nice, but it was also on a 2/2 flyer for 4, which was acceptable. 4/4/5 for 6, not quite as acceptable. Plus, you have to exhaust one of your units. Like, you have to have another unit in play and be willing to exhaust it when you have 6 power. Like, this is asking a lot out of me for a potentially good effect, but I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think it is.
Yeah, this is another strange card.
Yeah,
lots going on in term the mentor, the tempo element of it. Like, it feels like the best justice decks are going to be pretty aggressive. So taking the turn off of attacking with one of your units to just turn something into a wall, it doesn't even kill it. I mean, it's fine, but it's definitely not exciting. It sounds like a cop-out. I'm just gonna put this as like a C-, kind of just, it's okay filler, but definitely not the thing that you're really, really excited to put into your deck.
I'm gonna go even down to D+. Maybe it is gonna end up C-, but I'll be on the other side of the letter grade for now. We'll see. Maybe it plays better than it looks, but seems like it's asking a lot out of me to get not a big bonus. So there we go. Let's move on to this next this bomb that's coming up here. Actually, it might be a bomb.
Tell me about it.
Roland's Fist. It's a legendary weapon. Costs 6, double justice. Gives so you just put this on a unit. It gives that unit +7/+7.
What?
+7/+7. It's augmented form, but not fast, right? And it has summon, silence all enemy Valkyrie. Apparently, this also silences all the Valkyrie in their deck. It's not just the ones in play or whatever. It's like hand, deck, and in play. So they got a Mokdo lurking around for some reason. He done. Same with the Karia, whatever.
They get fisted.
Yeah, they get fisted, but I don't think that's really why you're playing it. You're just playing it because it's a +7/+7 weapon for 6. That's like just stupid.
Yeah,
it's just stupid. I don't know. I mean, augmented form was amazing because it was a fast spell. This is not. It's a weapon instead. But it's so much stats. Like, I don't know. We saw that, 7/3 weapon before for 7. This 6 is a lot cheaper.
Yeah, but you want that health so much more once you're at a certain point, right? Because it just means, like, you have to, like, put 3 units in front of this in order to properly block it, assuming... And then if you have this on the flyer, there's just no way they can win ever unless they actually have a removal spell immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not augmented form, which was like maybe in the A range, honestly. But this is, I think this is still really good. Like, I don't know, B? Like, is that what it is? I mean, it's a legend. You can still take it and get the stones if you want it, and never play it in constructed. So yeah, seems cool.
I think B is totally fine. It's definitely situational. It's still a weapon, so it's got its problems. But I can definitely see it winning games unless your opponents have very particular answers.
Yeah, and I guess if they do have a couple flying Valkyrie, cool, they're grounded. But you're not going to rely on that part. All right, let's move on to this next one.
There's actually one problem that I have with Roland's Fist. So Roland himself is a 6/6, right? But his fist is a 7/7?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense flavor-wise, right?
Maybe he's gotten stronger since set 1. You know?
I don't know, man.
He wasn't reprinted in this set, so we don't... maybe he was a 6/6, but now after he blew up a city, he's now like a 10/10 or something. Or he's just saying the best way for me to... He's just nothing without his fist. I don't know.
Yeah, so what you're telling me is that the way to grow as a person is to blow up cities. I understand.
I mean, there's many paths to strength. That's just one of them.
Roosting Owl is another 6-drop for double justice, and it is a 2/4 flyer with Mentor. The top unit of your deck gets the students plus attack plus health. I played this a little bit, and I was actually impressed by it relative to kind of how things go. So a 2/4 flyer for 6 is I'll definitely below rate, but it's not embarrassing. And if you're the kind of deck, like let's say you're a Combre deck that is planning to go a little bit further into the game, you can like add, fairly easily, 5, 6, 7 worth of stats to the next card in your deck. And, hopefully you get lucky and you hit something like a flyer. Mm-hmm. And it'll do a lot of work. Clearly, this isn't the sort of card that the ultra aggressive Justice decks are going to want. But I think that it fits into a lot of mid-rangey Justice decks, and you're going to be pretty happy with it.
Yep. This seems way better than that Prosecutor of Arms that we just talked about. Like a 2/4 flyer for 6, I'm way happier to have than a 4/4 for 6, honestly. And the Mentor effect also seems better, and it wears weapons well because it's flying. It just seems to do everything Justice would rather do. So yeah, I like this card. Still, it's a 6-drop 2/4. It can only be so good, but that Mentor can just be like a super war cry. I don't know. Is it still just like a C+ though? Like, is that can we put it? I think that's still all it is, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right.
It's definitely not exceptional, but it's it's good for a common.
This next card is exceptional.
Yes.
We have Leave a Witness here. It is a legendary spell. Thank God it's legendary. Costs 7, triple justice. Kill all units. Okay, harsh rule, sure. Mentor, spare the student. So you choose one of your units, you exhaust them, and they get to live. Everything else dies. And yeah, that's good. That's really, really, really good. A plus, does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, this is easily one of the best cards in the set for limited. If you cast this, you're going to have a hard time losing there afterwards. Just remember that you should not attack with your students first. This is one of those sorts of cards that I also see people making that sort of mistake. I can imagine that sort of happens. But this is similar to Doom Blast, was a card from Khans of Tarkir in Magic the Gathering, where you were able to kill everything except for one unit. That was also a slow-ish format, a lot of multi-faction, multicolor decks in Magic terms, and it was one of the most powerful cards in that set. So, and this one is just a mono-faction card. Especially, I really want to be in Cambrai for a card like this.
I don't care.
You stall at the game.
I'm taking.
I mean, yeah, I don't care what I'm in really.
Definitely. We don't have to go on too long about this one.
Yeah, really good. Another one that I don't think we have to explain very long is Elias the Broken Blade. This is an 8-cost 4 justice card, really heavy justice requirement, but it gives you a lot for that price tag. It is flying, it is lifesteal, and it is revenge. The way that I see this card is it's very similar to Roland's Honor Guard in both like costs and abilities. A little bit more justice, which means that it's not as splashable. You can usually get up to that, especially if you're in a 2-faction deck, by the time that you get to 8, but it's still not trivial. You want to make sure that you're slanting towards justice.
Yeah.
But like, how do you lose if you get this into play?
Yeah, this card's sick. I guess they have to silence it and then kill it or something, or transform it, Cerso's meddling or whatever.
Polymorph.
But yeah, this card's a bomb, just crazy bomb. Yeah, 8 is expensive, but 8 attack lifesteal means it's a 16 life swing if you connect even once with it. That's just so massive. And if they deal with it, it only has 4 health. It might trade the first time it comes down. It'll come back again eventually. That's okay. And the 8 life it gained you in the meantime will help you draw it again. So
yeah, that's one of the things that I was thinking about. Like let's say that this is in some crazy situation where you're really on the back foot and you play this and they have to alpha strike into it and it trades with something, you that'll give you like the 2 or 3 turns, that are necessary to hopefully draw into it again.
Yeah, if you open this in a pack, you take it, and if you get past it for some reason and you're not in justice yet, move into justice.
Now you're in
just
justice.
Move in. It will be the best card in the pack, and you'll be happy to have it.
Valkyrie Linebreaker. This is another 8-drop, a little bit less exciting than our previous one. Mm-hmm. It is a flyer. It is a 5/6, and the mentor is that you gain armor equal to the student's health. This is not the sort of 8-drop that I actually want to play in my decks because it's, I mean, 5/6 flyer is a lot.
Yeah, I like this. Spoil it.
Do you like this card? Okay.
After playing the format, I like this card a lot.
So you're just basically willing to find flyers that are big and beefy that are able to win the game for you.
Yeah, big flyers are good. You can just mentor something irrelevant if you want and just gain some armor. You can also mentor your Horn Grinder so that you give +6/+6 to it. But yeah, I think the format is slow enough that you can play like 8 drops in your deck. Obviously, this is not Elias, but it's also an uncommon. But yeah, a 5/6 flyer for 8, I think is just good in this format, and it has some minor upside to it.
I don't know, 8 so much.
Yeah, no, 8's a ton, but I mean, maybe it's, again, just early in the format and people haven't figured out how to build aggro yet, and this will eventually be bad. But I think this is playable. Maybe not great, but it's playable.
I'm going to put this at a C for now. Well, you've talked me up from a C- to a C.
All right.
I can see this going down for me, though.
I'm going to go like C+ still. Like, it's still an 8-drop, okay. But it might be better, it might be worse. We'll have to wait and see.
So now that we are done with our Justice cards, what are your thoughts on that faction?
It seems like they've got a good mix of everything. Some okay early aggro stuff. They've got like some things that care about weapons. They've got flyers in spots. They've got like, it feels like on first impression, like it's all over the place, and I've just got to figure out how to put it all together. But a lot of solid cards for sure. Like, just they don't have too many duds really. They don't have any like outstanding commons either. At least at first glance, like Time kind of had, but also nothing like super terrible. Like decent depth at least.
The thing that I would say is that it's the card quality seems a little bit higher than Fire and lower than Time. Mm-hmm. Time had really solid cards at the common and uncommon sort of slots. So I mean, yeah, definitely the top end bombs though of Faction are pretty exciting.
Okay, so yeah, well that's a Faction I'll still have to untangle and figure out. I haven't played with it much yet, but excited to. It seems like a lot of interesting things going on.
Okay, so we have been doing this now for 4 hours.